over the rainbow with dreams of better than life. There's nobody to save. I sit alone with my head through the sky. Yes, I'm wondering, never asking why. I just see inside, see inside.
Hello, and welcome to the Mechanics of the Maya. And today we're going to take a look at, the center of life. We're going to take a look at the sacral center. We're going to take a look at this generator of the world itself. But I can't really start with the sacral. I have to start with something else. I have to start with something that, in grasping it, gives one a sense of how profound the impact of generators are in this world and what the sacral center can really do. What I'm referring to is auras. Auras. You know, the New Age is filled with people that talk about auras, but I don't think that until you really understand the mechanics of what the aura represents, that you can truly grasp the significance of what this is. We all have an energy field that is around us, but the way in which the energy field around us operates is very different. I'm a manifester, and as a manifester, I have what's called a closed aura. A closed aura. It's a very, very tight aura. Not only is it a closed aura, but when you come up against this aura, there is a natural repulsion away from it. And when you think about the nature of aura, the most important thing to understand about aura is that aura isn't a byproduct of what we are. It is what we are. It carries the essential energetic information of our nature. My physical aura is the manifestor nature itself being expressed out of the holistic totality that I am. And this is an aura that is closed and repelling. If you take a projector has a totally different way in which their holistic energy expresses itself. It expresses itself in a focused aura. This is a focused aura. It is something entirely different. It's why in what it is to be a projector that being recognized is not such a big deal when you consider that their aura penetrates the other. It is an expression of the way in which they operate as a type. When you get to the reflector has a Teflon aura. Teflon aura, everything just slides off. Nothing sticks. Nothing sticks. See, it is something to understand about us and about our energy field. That when you get to the generator has an open and enveloping aura. Open and enveloping. There is no other aura like that on this plane. When you step into the aura of a generator, their aura goes completely around you, envelops you, takes you deeply into their energy field. It's what generators are. And the way in which we meet each other in this life, what happens to us in our contacts with other types can be seen very, very clearly just through the mechanics of the aura itself. The relationship between the generator and the manifester. There's the generator trying to envelop a closed aura. Isn't necessarily very satisfying. Or the generator with the projector. And there's the generator enveloping and open around the projector, and the projector goes focusing deep into them. Isn't always a pleasant thing unless it is correct. We are aura beings. And in understanding the nature of the generator, that this sacral center, through the way in which generating operates, that it envelops and conditions everything in its aura. It's what they do. It is, after all, generators that establish what is the nature of life on this planet. It all comes out of the sacral center, all of it. It's why the transformation of any generator is not simply a matter that they themselves have an opportunity for a different way of living their lives and being able to find the satisfaction that can be there for them. Everything about the nature of what it is to be a generator, everything about understanding that each generator can transform the world around it. The correct generator envelops the other. It envelops them and nurtures them and brings them into that conditioning field. It's actually quite a weight when you think about it. Generators represent approximately 2/3 of the human population. And it means that everything else is dependent on them and dependent on the way in which they establish the world, because it is generators who establish the world. It's all there in the sacral. Let's begin with our journey through the sacral center, and let's look at the format gates. The format channels are the channels that are there between the root center and the sacral center. Each of these three channels, two collective, a logic and an abstract, and the individual in the middle, that these channels establish a very unique and precise frequency for the way in which their particular attributes function. In the root center, we have the pressure to create these frequencies, but it is the sacral that gives them their life. And funny, that phrase, gives them their life, because it gives them something else too. The sacral truly is a wonder and a mystery. It's really about the 42nd gate. You know, the 42nd gate is an extraordinary thing because it carries with it the completion of the cycle. And that means it carries with it what we call death. That in this channel of maturation is the birth in the 53, the life in the channel, and the closing of the cycle in the 42. The sacral center just doesn't simply generate the life potential, but it generates the life potential within a fixed cycle, a cycle of life to death. It is one of the great mystical stories in human design that there is no channel, no direct channel between the sacral and the ego. If there were, there would be no death. But as long as there is no connection between the sacral and the ego, the 42nd gate is the gate that rules our fate. It says we are cyclical creatures, that we will come into this world and we will leave it. And it is the sacral being, it is the generator with their open and enveloping aura that conditions all of us to this cyclical process of life, to what can be seen through the solar plexus, the human experiential way. Here is the format of the experiential life, cyclical, generated out of the sacral. On the other side, at the bottom of the sacral, the other format of the collective process, the logical process, we have the 9th gate, the taming power of the small, the energy to go through perfection processes one step at a time. The pattern is built into us. The pattern of experimentation, the pattern of the development of talent and skills. It's generated out of the 9th gate. It's generated out of this step-by-step, detail-by-detail conditioning. And the frequency is the pattern generated outward by the sacral center, generating the cycle of life, generating the pattern of development. And in the center, the 360, the 3rd gate, difficulty at the beginning, the generation of the most profound mutative process that we have. It is the third gate that truly determines the gender of a being coming into the world. It is the third gate that carries the information of our ancestry. It is the third gate that defines the mutative process, generates outward the mutative process of humanity. You see, the sacral center is not just simply a motor. It is the motor. It is the engine of life. It is the generator of the world. And it creates the pattern, cycle, mutative reality that we all live in. Take away all the generators, and the movie's over. At least the one we know. Because everything that we live by, all of the cycles and patterns and mutations that form the nature of being, this is all being conditioned by generators. Oh, I know, I'm a manifester. And I have a totally open sacral center with no activations in it whatsoever. And can you ever feel that frequency? This is a life force. If you go around the sides of the sacral and you get to its two wings, flying off to the spleen on one side and the solar plex on the other side, you get to the two great genetic roll gates. The 27th gate, nourishment, the 59th gate, dispersion. You get to these two genetic roll gates. They define the way in which we are going to operate genetically. They control the movie of how we are going to live out our interpersonal process. The intimacy that is possible through the 59 to the 6. But intimacy is something that is generated out of the sacral. Out of the sacral comes the roles of seeking bonds. It is the sacral center that locks us into the bond-making process. It is not natural to any undefined sacral being. It is the sacral, it is the generative roles that come out of the sacral that determine that we are here to be bound to the other, that we are here to be fertile with the other. And then when we go to the other side, to the 27th gate, that we have a generated responsibility to nurture what we bring into the world. It is the sacral center that controls us as a species, allows us to survive as a species through reproduction. And it's not that this whole reproductive thing is about mind, or that it's about sexuality, which is in the solar plex center. It isn't. It is a generated life force mechanism. Make more, make more, make more, make more, make more. Comes out of the sacral. Interesting about genetic roll gates, the 27th gate, nourishment. This generates the power to stimulate intelligence. It's actually quite something when you think about it. Without this generative force, there would be no demand for intelligence. That this whole reproductive program leads to the necessity for strategies to secure the survivability of the species. But the world that we deal with, the circumstances that we deal with, the life that we deal with, this is generated day by day by day, moment by moment, breath by breath, by the generators of this planet. Think about us as human beings. We are a genetic construct. And as a genetic construct, as a bioform, the most profound thing about us genetically is that we are designed to be attracted to what we are not. Now, this only serves the purposes of reproduction. It serves no other purpose, truly, no matter how you rationalize it. It only serves one purpose. It serves the purpose of reproduction. Reproduction cannot be based on sameness. Reproduction based on sameness is a dead-end street. It leads to the failure of the development of gene pool. It's so important to grasp that the way in which we are designed to be attracted to the other, all that whiteness that we have in our designs, that is constantly being seduced by the possibilities of what are there, all of that is only an instrument generated out of the sacral so that we will be reproductive with what is different from us. It is quite a trap. I mean, it is quite a trap. When you think about the way human beings operate out of the mind is ruled by the not-self. That is, it's ruled by the openness that it wants that it doesn't have. And because it's ruled by the openness that it wants that it doesn't have, it develops its own not-self strategies to try to get those things. That openness becomes the curse in the life. It is that openness that determines what the life is going to be, which has nothing to do with the being itself. And yet that openness that is so deeply a challenge to all of us, if you deconstruct it down to just see where the mechanism is, it's just make more. It isn't about anything else. This is the power of the sacral center. Without this power, we do not have this ongoing, enormous population, this huge reproductive drive that, by the way, is very much in line with the sacral's need for mutation, that the more variations, the more bondings through greater differences, the more possibility for more fascinating mutations. We are at the greatest mutative potential for humanity ever through this reproductive motor. It's interesting about being aware, about being correct. You can never beat the genes. This is what we are. But everything is a binary. Everything is a this and that in the Maya. And that is true for the way in which the genetic imperative operates. There is the genetic imperative of reproduction that distorts us deeply, that is found in the 59 and the 27. This genetic imperative that locks us into being so seduced by what is different from us. But in awareness, the genetic imperative shifts. And one begins to resonate to what is good for you. One begins to resonate to sameness. And when I say resonate to sameness, that can be taken at any level. You know, if you're somebody who is emotional, you'll discover that it's easier in many ways to be with somebody who's emotional. There is something that you recognize. There is a similarity. There's a similarity in types together. There is a familiarity and a comfort given shared centers. I mean, I have a defined ego. I find it quite easy to deal with defined egos. There is a beauty in resonating to sameness. But it's not something you can select. It's a byproduct of a transformation that takes place within. I have no problem. Funny way to put that, with the generated world. It is what it is. And I know full well that you can't change those 4, 5, 6 billion of them. You can change one generator at a time, maybe you. No more than that. But what it means for the individual generator to begin to move away from the frustration that is so heavy in their process, and to be able to take full advantage of the power in them, not simply for the correctness of their own life, but for what they envelop. There is no greater influence on this plane, in the physical sense, than stepping into the aura of a generator that's correct. Because this is an aura that totally embraces you in that process. You can't look at the sacral center without looking at the 34th gate, the power of the great. It's an extraordinary font of energy. It is the fuel of integration, the 34 to the 57 to the 10 to the 20, this backbone of human individuality, this gate of empowerment. And it is one of the things to see about the sacral center is that it is connected to our most ancient developmental process, our most powerful survival drive, and that it is the primary energy for the human archetype that is expressed in the 34-57 and the way it fulfills itself through integration. In other words, it is the sacral center that not only generates what we would describe as our tribal bonding system, but it is so profound in the way in which it operates in the world that it is the very force that drives, in that sense, our uniqueness. From the sacral center to the throat is something known as the power column. It really is the central core of what it is to be a human being. It is also within this core that we are connected to the transauric form, the penta. It is here in the power column that our relationship to our families and to the world that we are going to live in, that the parameters of what is possible for us is established. The sacral center leading up to the G center, these gates, they generate something very, very special. But rather than going into sort of a grand view of that, let me just give you a hint of that in the nature of the gates themselves. Look at the 5th gate. You know, I think I have already taught probably 7 or 8 hours of classes on the 5th gate over my years of teaching. It is one of the foundations of life on this planet. Just about every form carries the 15-5, the channel of rhythm, the channel of being in the flow. That the basic pattern of life is here in the 5th gate, the basic pattern of life. This is where the pattern of life is generated. It's so interesting that the other end of the 5 is the 15th gate, and the 15th gate is the love of humanity, or the potential of the love of humanity, this gate of extremes. And here is the 5th gate generated out of the sacral center, establishing the habits of being human, the human patterns, the way in which we can operate as human beings. It is deeply profound. And more than that, that 5th gate is so ancient, is so deep in the life program. Wherever you look in the life program, it's there. And this is out of the sacral. It's not just for us to think about the sacral center as an empowerment of human life. The sacral center is everywhere in nature. Everywhere in nature. It is the very patterns of life itself that are the deepest influence of the sacral. On the other side, the 29th gate, the abysmal, the deep within the deep what? The deep power in us to generate commitment. The sacral is the great worker. They are here to commit themselves to the life work, whatever that may be. That is the essence of the 29th gate. This commitment to the process, this commitment to the experiential way, this commitment to the cycle. You see, the sacral is what locks us into what we call life. It generates the patterns, it generates the commitments, it generates the whole thing. See, I sit outside of the sacral and I understand that I am, quote unquote, a parasite in their world. It's their world, not my world. I did not construct all of that. Generators do. endlessly, timelessly, as a byproduct of the very existence. And in the center, the 14th gate. What a wonderful name it has, possession in great measure. Truly, that is the nature of the power that is there in this gate. It is through this gate that we are linked to life on the planet. It is through this gate that the direction of humanity is generated, the direction of our species, the direction of life on this plane, where it is going to go. It all begins there in the power of the sacral center to generate it. Oh, this is the great engine of the world. This is the great motor. From the very beginning of my work, I've spent an enormous amount of time and energy trying to educate generators, my fallen angels, The perfection that is possible for the generator is something unlike any other type. The potential of it, because it is so simple. It is so deeply, deeply simple. It is this basic binary between, initiating and responding. That's all. Because the generator inherently deep within itself understands that it generates this plane, it would like to command it as well, and it cannot. It can only operate as all things do when they're correct, in a harmony with the way this process works. Human design is only about decision making. That's the simplest level of this knowledge. And for a generator, it means the decisions come out of response. That's all. Nothing more, nothing less. A decision out of response is a movement that carries with it the perfection of an aura, that enveloping, that takes in the other, that conditions them. In the end, if you are outside of this power source, as I am, you long for them to be correct. Because the frequency of a generator world, when it's incorrect, you can see on the news every night. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. And until next time, bye for now.
I can do nothing but wait. I sit alone with my head through the sky. Yes, I'm wondering and never asking why. I just see inside.